I'm going to tell the story in 3 parts because I don't know how long my legs will last, my hips, or my back. Ever since I was a little girl, I have always loved stories. I would gather up my stuffed animals and my dolls around my little tea party table, and I would force them to listen to my stories over and over. And then I discovered movies and the impact of sight and sound and action. And I would come back home, grab those dolls, grab those animals. But the difference was, I put myself into the movies. That's the story that I wanted to tell today. The story begins in 1938. Hitler is on the move. He appears to be indomitable. He is obsessed. He's obsessed with the idea that nothing and no one can stop him, including people who were ethnically unique, physically or emotionally different, or people who just were in his way. One of his advisors came to him and said to him, "We got just what you need. There's an American archaeologist, and he is what is known as a Grail scholar. The Holy Grail. Christ's Grail. And he believes that he's found it. And with it becomes indomitable power and the prospect of immortality." Hitler looked back at him and said, "You know, I could use that." And so he sent his advisor with an alleged archaeologist, Dachte Eva, to go and find the American archaeologist. Fast forward in the movie. They're traveling to Turkey, and they abduct the archaeologist. The archaeologist had a son, and like many parents, they don't always get along with their children. And these two were on the outs. And the son, who was a professor in college, gets a phone call from one of his father's closest friends saying, "You gotta listen to me. I know you say you don't care anymore, but I think your father is missing." And he said, "Look, he probably fell into one of his ancient holes." He blows off the call. The next day a package comes, and in it is his father's diary with all of his notes. And he realizes that for his father to send it to him, his father must be in trouble. He grabs his hat, his whip, takes that with him everywhere, and goes to Turkey. He then ventures with his friend to Venice, to a library that is maintained by a unique group of protectors of the Grail. They go into the library, they go down, and they come across the sarcophagus. It was the sarcophagus of the first knight of the First Crusade. And in it, or on it, was an inscription. It looked familiar to the son, because he'd seen part of it in his father's notebook. And on the sarcophagus, it tells him where you can find the Holy Grail. At that time, the father's friend introduces him to a woman who alleges that she is his father's colleague, Dr. Eva. And they go forth, but they are chased after they find this clue. In the interim, in Bulgaria, the father has been kidnapped. They don't have the book, but they have a map. His father has always been a disruption to this child. He always felt his father was doing one up on him, but he realized this was dangerous. He arranges for his escape. They go in a Zeppelin. The Zeppelin crashes. They land. And they finally go back to be his friend. The son has the book. The Nazis got the map. The Nazis get it. And they decide to fund an expedition to where the Grail is. And they get there ahead of the son, and the father, and the friends. I'm taking time to give you all the salient details. Because the movie's about to change. When they get to this mountain of limestone and this very narrow crevice, it opens up into an expanse, and before them is a temple. And Dr. Eva and her associate, and me, as I told you earlier, I suddenly decided to become part of the movie. And the Nazis are telling the son, we want those clues. And the father says, we'll never give them to Hitler. He said, sure you will. And the man called Donovan pulls out a revolver and shoots him point blank with a mortal wound. Now, if that isn't the reason to save your father, what is? Now, you must be wondering, why did I put myself into the movie? I wasn't looking for indomitable power. I wasn't counting on immortality. My husband would be long gone. But as a cancer patient of a very allegedly rare sarcoma, GIST, where there is no cure, the only tentative relief is surgery. The prospect of going into the temple and possibly benefiting from this Grail, something I seriously considered. The father is dying, ebbing away, and the son proceeds to follow what will be 3 challenges. The son says to me, look, why don't you come along? And together we do the first one, the second one, and finally, as we're getting ready to do the third one, they stop. And we look down. The son goes, I don't believe it. Just then, someone calls to us from across the way, and it's that night. And he's motioning us to come on. And you can see next to him a table with all these chalices, goblets, cups. The son goes, how the heck are we supposed to get over there? Thinking about it. He said, I got an idea. Takes off his fedora, pulls out his bullwhip, tries to swing it onto something so we can swing across. There was nothing to grab onto. To come so far, for me that temple was in Petros, in Jordan. It was the University of Pennsylvania. And after finding my way there, to be deprived of getting over to the other side, because I had been told, as Hitler had been told, there was something there for me. Something called Leavik from Novartis. My tumor is inoperable. I'm also not a candidate for surgery. And so, as we stand there on the precipice, like many cancer patients and people with other illnesses, over, and I got to hold on because I don't want to fall into the abyss. And the son says to me, "My God, there's nothing down there." But for me, there was. Financial quicksand. Ask any person with a chronic disease, whether it is the patient or the family. You can't walk on quicksand, no matter how religious you think you are. I looked down, and just then, almost telepathically, the father sends a message to the son. You've got to believe. You've got to believe. Simultaneously, my mother always had to get the last few words in. She says to me, "Toby, I've always told you, if you believe in you, the way you believed in you, the way your friend believed in you, you can accomplish anything." Something kind of got on my foot, my shoe, I'm looking down, and I pick up a handful of sand. And I went, I don't believe this. And I threw the sand into the abyss. And instantaneously, a bridge appeared that would enable us to get across, hopefully find the grail and come back. We didn't realize that Donovan and Dr. Ava were going to take the same bridge. When we got there, the knight tells us that we must choose wisely. Because of all the chalices and cups and goblets that are on the table, only one of them is the grail. Only one can ensure life, and the others ensure death. This gets the guy from Germany a little nervous, and you know how some men always take advantage of women? Shannon says to Dr. Ava, "Why don't you pick out the goblet?" And she goes over, and she is so ticked off. And she's looking and looking, and finally she picks one up. It is loaded with jewels and diamonds. And she said, "I'm going to get him good." She gives him the wrong goblet. He in turn takes the goblet, walks over to a font filled with holy water, and he's thinking, why should I give this to Hitler? If I can be powerful and have indomitability and immortality, and he takes and brings the chalice to his lips. If you can't hear me, let me know. Oh, thank you. Aren't women wonderful? I got it. Let me know if you can't hear me. So basically what happens is, he brings it to his lips, and within moments he starts to dissolve. Dr. Eva goes, "Oh my God!" And she's mortified. And the son and I are standing by. He said, "You know something, Toby? Maybe you should go pick it out." I told you, men, whenever they can, they let a woman take their place. And I'm looking and I'm looking. I looked into one goblet, and I saw photon radiation. That doesn't work with just. I then looked at another one. Chemotherapy. Drip, drip, drip. That doesn't work. And I looked and looked, and finally, I saw a carpenter's cup. And in it, I saw Levic tablets. At that time, they were about $600 a pill. Those pills financially were as far away from me as the abyss separated me from the table. Son said, "Did you pick one out?" I said, "Yeah, let's take this one." And I hand it to him, and I'm looking. And inside, I think I can see a targeted therapy. Just then we hear, hurry, your father is dying!" And I had my grail in my hand. And like many of you, I couldn't keep hold of it. And I handed it to him, because to lose a parent is to lose half of who made you. And I gave it to him. And he filled it with the holy water, and we went back over the bridge. We make it to his father. The father gets to drink it. We pour it on the wound, and the father recovers. Just then, Dr. Ava grabs the goblet and starts running to leave the temple. And the son chases after her and says, "Come back, come back." She says, "No, I am going to have indomitable power. I will last forever." And just then the walls separated, the ceiling fell down, the floor opens up, and she goes down into the abyss. And the son decides to try to save her. And the father says to him, "Give it up! Give it up! It's not worth it! Let it go!" And Dr. Ava has a date with the bottomless pit, taking the grail with her. Meanwhile, the father, the son, and the friends hightail it out of there, riding their horses, going on to their next adventure. And here it is, I'm left standing at the door with nothing, or so I thought. Now you must be wondering, why is she using most of her time to tell us this story? Well, for two reasons. One for me, and the other for all of you. The knight appears again, and he says to me, "Toby, most people just don't get it. There was no power in the cup. There is no magic. Because if you didn't have that bridge, there was no way you could get it. PSI, Patient Services, Inc., an organization such as yours, create bridges for people to restore their future." He said to me, "Like those men that left you." You hear that? Left you. They didn't turn. I was in the movie. They knew I was in the movie. They forget something that I was taught when I was a child, and that was about 700 years ago. Maybe you've heard this before. Did any of you ever hear, "God helps those who help themselves"? And they hightail it out of there. But people like you finish and give the refrain. But those who help others, God remembers best. Toby, God remembers you. I said, "Sounds good, feels good, I don't know." And just then I look down, and the sand at my feet is swirling. And what should appear but a mountain of 400 milligram bleeding tablets. I turned to thank him, and suddenly the cast has expanded, because all of you today, right now, in this room, are now in the movie. And the old knight says to me, in closing, "Remember, God helps those who help themselves. But those who help others, God remembers best." So this is what I'm going to do for them. I'm going to give them 3 questions. And if you can answer them today in this room, because God remembers you best, your patients, your colleagues, their wishes will never go interrupted or unanswered. So here's your first question. Get ready. I'm serious. I'm a faith-based person. And I told you to do it, I expect you to do it. If anyone in this room, sitting down, has a chronic illness, would you please stand up right now? Anybody out there have a chronic illness? Come on. Listen, if you're shy, raise your hand and wave. Come on. This isn't about constipation. Good. Keep standing. The second question. Have you ever known anyone who's had a chronic illness, whether it's a parent, a child, a sibling, a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a friend, even somebody you don't particularly like that much? Would you stand up right now? I want you to know I feel like Santa Claus. I'm making a list in a second. And soon made sure everyone got what they needed. And finally, the third. Have you ever known, loved, and lost somebody you loved because they could not find a bridge the way you have and you provide? Please stand up. As you stand, I say this to you. There is nothing miraculous about a story about a man with a fedora, a whip. There's nothing to consume you the way Harrison Ford and Sean Connery did in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. But what is important for you to realize that we have a responsibility. And just before that night left, he whispered to me. He said, Toby, you told your story. But now is the time for you people here to go forth after hearing what these magnificent women have told us and create stories of your own about the imperative, the non-negotiality of patient assistance programs. And when you do, you have one last test. While you stand here, I'm just a storyteller. I don't expect you to applaud me. I'm not on a Star Search. I'm not in a competition. You should be standing every day for the people who make it possible, the people who say, Toby, did you take your pill? Toby, did you eat something with the pill? It is the caregivers of these patients that deserve a standing ovation. I brought my caregiver because he deserves as much recognition as I receive acknowledgement. Toby Koch. And I sincerely hope, and I mean this, I could have come out here and said, oh, I had a tumor. It got big. It didn't work. There are days I can't get out of bed. There are other days I need a transporter. Who could equal the magnificence of what they told? And so instead, I went back to my early roots at the Tea Party table. But this time, you are the stars of our movie. Thank you.